have to forgive my hair. I let it air dry and it out of the shower, and it's a little meh. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about my February wrap up. I read 7 books this month, and I want to tell you about it. The first book that I read in February was My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. This was pretty awesome. It's a shorter book. It's under 300 pages, but I had a blast with this. I listened to it on audio, and the narrator was fantastic, and I highly recommend it. And you get sort of the pronunciations correctly with Corday and her sister. It's a really straightforward book. Like, it is what it says it is, My Sister the Serial Killer. Although I will say that Corday is a much better sister than I am, because if my brother turned out to be a serial killer, I'd be like, no, cops, he's right over there. Look at this text thread. Like, look at this. Is that not serial killer to you? So she's a much better sister than I am. But I recommend it. I had so much fun listening to this. It was witty. It was like, it's got some of that dark humor in it that, speaks to my blackened soul. And I thought it was great. Again, like I said, it's a straightforward story. It is what it says it's going to be, and I greatly appreciate that. The second book that I read was Cite by Brandon Sanderson, book 2. I've read Skyward, and I really adored Skyward. I love Mbot. I love Spensa. Spensa is one of my favorite characters, someone that I can relate to so hardcore, as especially like teenage me. And early adult me. I'm still pretty competitive, but when I was in competition, there was no, like, oh man. Spensa is sort of my spirit fictional character. This takes Spensa away from the world that she lives in, Detritus. And she essentially becomes a spy, and she has to go skyward into the world, into the universe, and shenanigans ensue. This was a lot of fun. I did like the first one better, and that's pretty much consensus from a lot of people. I loved Skyward. This one opens up the world, and I think that was sort of the point of this one, is that it transitions us from this small area to this larger universe and this bigger, greater story. And I know a third book's going to come out. I've heard tale that there is a fourth one as well, so I will be reading those also. I have a hard time with series, but finishing series. I've still never read the last Harry Potter. Tell anyone, but I have a hard time finishing series, so I hope I can stick with it. I don't tend towards a lot of young adult, but I've been giving more young adult a chance based on a lot of booktubers that I watch, and I've been so pleasantly surprised. I was someone who kind of went straight from middle grade to adult books. Like, just one day I was reading Little House on the Prairie, Caddy Woodland, the American Girl series, and then the next day I was reading Stephen King, like literally. So I kind of skipped that whole YA, and plus in the 90s, the YA wasn't as big as it is now, and there was a definite youthfulness to it that I skipped over. And now being in my 30s, going back to YA, I've been pleasantly surprised so far. There is a book that I'm reading right now, and we'll get to the wrap up probably for March, but it's exactly why I avoid YA, but why I enjoy giving it a chance in the same book. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I hate these sections, but this is great. So I just give it a shot. And I've loved the Brandon Sanderson I've read so far, and his YA is a lot of fun, and I really look forward to getting into his more adult series. Way of Kings is in the horizon for me, so I'm very excited to get into that. But I think Skyward and Cite were awesome introductions to Brandon Sanderson for me. Okay, so the next book that I read was Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is my first Rebecca Roanhorse, and I know this is a little bit of a booktube darling. I did listen to it on audio. The narrator was fantastic, and I really liked it. I related to Maggie a lot. She's a great character. The book did leave me wanting more. I feel like there could have been a little more world building. There could have been a little, like, everything could have been pushed just a little bit more, but I wasn't mad at it. And I'm also happy that there's going to be another one coming out soon. So we get to see these characters. And I feel like while reading this, you know, the author did that on purpose. Like, well, I'm going to give you just enough because this world's going to blow wide open. And I am excited to see that happen. The next book I read is one of my most disappointing ones of the month, and that was Night Stalkers, book 5 of the Meg series by Steve Alten. The first 4 books of this series I freaking adored, especially like the first 2 or 3. I was like, I love the Meg series. I really do. I love it. I think it's great. I love creature features. You know, I like creature feature movies and I like creature feature books. So I was so happy to get back into this world. I also love The Lock by Steve Alten. That was my first Steve Alten book, and I adored it. So, okay, I tell you that to tell you this. Book 4.5 in the Meg series is called Vostok. Vostok also takes place in the universe of The Lock. So the 2 main characters from the Meg series and The Lock come together, and I was out of my mind excited for this. These are 2 characters that I really adore, and I was so happy to read Vostok. Really excited. And I hated that book so hard, and it hurt. The direction that he took, I was so unhappy with it. I'm not going to spoil it, but I was so mad. I was like, please don't be this. Please don't be this. It's this. Of course it's this. And I was really upset by it. So then I didn't pick it up for a long time. Was talking about the Meg series with a friend. I was like, you know what? I have Night Stalkers. Let me read that. I listened to it on audio, which I do not recommend. It's not that the narrator was bad or anything. It's just I don't think he was exactly right for this story to my ears, because Zach Wallace, he sounded like a caricature. And that is just not, like, I've been with these characters over 7 books combined. And I just, the voices were not at all what I had in my head. So if you started this series by reading it and you have these voices in your head, do not switch to the audio. Or at least I don't recommend it. If you're someone who can do that seamlessly, go for it. But I am not. And if you are anything like me, that's not going to be a good time for you. So it's just not what I had in my head, and I did not like it. I did not connect to it. Now, there were some exciting parts because we go back to, you know, the Meg. We've got Bella and Lizzie, you know, the Big Mama's angels' babies. And they surprise escape, because what else is going to happen in a Meg book? So they escape. There were some exciting scenes, and I was really happy to be back in that world. But then they started referencing things that happen in Vostok, and I was like, nope, it just ruined it for me. I was not happy about it. I'm not 100% if I'm going to give books 6 and 7 a shot. I do have them on my want to read list. They are on my TBR, but if I get to them, it's not going to be anytime soon. So Night Stalkers was a big for me. The next book I read and adored, and I have a physical copy to show you, was Hyperbole and a Half by Allie Brosh. So I was, like a lot of us, I found her blog, and I was reading that when it was active, and I loved her blog. The humor was wonderful, the wit, the images are just, she's just so wonderful. So all of the artwork looks like that, and it's a blast. I was really happy to be back into this universe. This is book 1, and I know that this is an older one, but I hadn't read it in a very long time. So the only thing that I would say is, at least in the very beginning, because I feel like Allie has grown from using this word, there is a very a little bit of a nasty word that I don't like to use, and it's used in the second story about her dog, but then it's not used again. So just be aware of just a smidgen of verbiage that you might not be happy about. But it's not used again in the rest of the book. So I was happy about that because to me it sounded like, oh, okay, so because I know she's really big into taking care of yourself mentally. She talks about her depression in here quite vividly, but in a way that is also relatable. So I feel like she's grown as a person and into being more aware of how she's using her words. And you can kind of see that in the progression of this. And I thought that was really nice. Anyone can do that. It's just a matter of putting the effort behind it, which I feel that she has. I really look forward to reading the second one. And yeah, I think there's a little bit of something for everyone in this. Even if you aren't someone that suffers from depression, there's things in here you're going to find that you can relate to. And if you do, there's real hope in this book. Real hope that if you just keep going, it's not always going to be easy, but you'll get to the other side. And you might have to do it again and again, but it's worth it to keep going. And that's a really nice sentiment. The next book that I read and really, really enjoyed, it's another BookTube darling that everyone's like, 5 stars. And that is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I liked this. It was fun. It was it was hot. Okay, but I own the second one on my e-reader, and I only take a hint, Danny Brown. I own that one on my e-reader, and I was waiting for a sale for Get a Life, Chloe Brown, so I can put that in there so I could read it because I wanted to read it. But it never came up on sale, and it was annoying me. So then I went to see if it was in my library. So to get an ebook download from my library, the wait was 73 weeks. The wait for the audiobook from my library was 3 weeks, and it came in a week and a half early, so I went with the audiobook. That was a mistake on my part. And the narrator was great. She has a wonderful voice. I would listen to her narrate other things. I do not feel that she was the right voice for this book at all. I don't know what. I think it was just the wrong voice. And then it's just another reason, I should have just either waited or bit the bullet and bought it or just waited the 73 weeks. But the narrator's voice sounds like a warm hug from your favorite aunt. And it's very pleasing voice. It's a very comforting voice. But I don't want to hear that voice talk to me about vaginal folds and pre-cum. That's just... So it made the really hot parts for me. I was laughing because I was like, this is so uncomfortable. So I'm just picturing my aunt saying these things. And I'm like, this is not, no, oh my gosh. So instead of being like, whoo, girl, this is sexy. It was, oh my gosh, I'm a little uncomfortable because this voice just sounds like an older family member. And I just couldn't, I mean, that's just a personal preference thing, though. It doesn't take away the fact that it was a well-written, fun jaunt through these two people coming together. And the only other thing that I do have issue with is sort of the insta-love. I feel like they had just met, and then I don't think that we needed to get to the I love yous at the end. I feel like that was implied. That's where they were going anyway. Maybe leave that for the epilogue, but I didn't need the big proclamation. That kind of, I was like, oh, that's just, stop. You just met. Stop. Enjoy each other. We know that you're going to go on and be in love. Do we need to get to that point? I didn't feel the need for that. I would have assumed that they were going to go on to that anyway. And we can confirm that in the epilogue, maybe just not in the main story. But again, that comes down to personal preference. I enjoy Talia Hibbert's writing. I think she's very witty. I loved the banter between the two, and Red is a gem. The last book I read in February, I was so excited. It's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. My mom gave me this book, and I was so happy. Okay, I've never read V.E. Schwab before, so this is my first experience with her. I love her writing. Oh my gosh, I think it's great. I think the book is great. The beginning and the ending were wonderful. There is a point in the middle that I had to slog through a bit that I was having, again, another booktube darling. I did have to slog through the middle a little bit. There is a character that I kind of just, I don't care about that person as an individual. I care about them as they relate to Addie, but when Addie is not part of the equation, we're just learning about this. I just didn't care, and I just kind of had to slog through it. And then when it got to the end and we got back to Addie, I was like, oh yes, here we go, back to what I like. So, so maybe just this little piece in the middle, I was a little like, but the rest of it, I really, really enjoyed. It was enchanting and engaging. So getting past the section that I slogged through, overall, this was just a very enchanting and engaging book. I've read some reviews where, people think that Addie is an idiot or she's just not that bright. But I think she's a much more complex character than she's even given credit for in the book. I think that we are left to our imagination as to what she's been through and what will go through in the future. We get snippets of her life. We're only seeing this much of an immortal life. So we've seen her grow and learn. And I think that she forms herself around her surroundings, and she becomes what she needs to be in that moment. So, in that time period and around these people. So the person that remembers her, she just wants it so badly. But then I saw a lot of growth in her, and I don't think she's dumb. I don't. I think she's a lot more complex than she lets on to be. There are parts that were a little angsty and sort of like hipsterish for me that I was like, oh my gosh. So those sort of the sections I had to slog through, but the beginning up until that point, and then just the whole ending, I couldn't put it down, and I was just really happy to be in this world, learning what Addie is learning, experiencing what she was experiencing. I cried, I laughed, and my boyfriend was making dinner, and I was finishing this book up, and he asked me something, and I answered, and he's like, you sound a little nasally in there. Is something sad happening? And I'm like, shut up. So it's just, I felt a lot. And then it was sitting on my end table after I finished it. I put it down and turned on the TV, and I kept looking at it. And I was like, I'm sad you're over. I'm really sad. I'm sad. This one gave me a pretty hefty book hangover. I'm sad that it's over. Even though I didn't like the middle part, I'm sad that it's over. But I'm excited to give more V.E. Schwab books a chance. So yay. We are going to move to my stats. Well, hi, we need to do this again because it didn't take the first time. So here is my StoryGraph stats, and we had mostly the moods. We read 7 books, 2,595 pages, and we mostly read adventure, funny, and dark books, and then mysterious and emotional, and then the last 2 are like more tense and reflective. I read mostly at a fast pace and a medium pace. Only 1 book was under 300 pages. The rest of them were between 300 and 499. I read 1 nonfiction, and the rest were fiction. And interesting that young adult is my top genre. And then another mix of thriller, sci-fi, fantasy were the top genres that I dabbled in. And then my average star rating was 3.5. Cool. So we can compare that, which is pretty fun, let's compare it to January. And February. Compare. I like this. It's fun. So my moods are kind of like dark for January and adventurous for February. Dark and brooding is kind of my wheelhouse, though. So you can see that here. My paces were a little different in January. I had no slow pace in February. There was no chill in February. So yeah. So this is what I've been reading, and this is how it all shakes out according to TheStorygraph. So there you go. And until next time, follow in all the places and hit all the things. You know what to do. Bye.